Good evening. For those of you who don't know, my name is Aaron Walker. I'm the founder, period, of Camelback Ventures. I'm honored to introduce our next fireside chat, Guardians of Legacy Building Tomorrow Together, featuring Camelback's new CEO, Shawna Young. And moderated by Regina Dyer of Offor. There we go. People have been asking me lately, how am I feeling? And while there are moments of nostalgia, I feel good. I feel good that I ran my race, and I'm ready to pass the baton. I feel good knowing that Camelback is the accumulation of lifetimes of knowing, and I've been able to pass that on. And I also feel good because of the two people who are gonna be on the stage with us for the next 40-ish minutes. So I just want to tell you a little bit about each of them. So I want to start with Regina Dyer. Now, I've known Regina for a long time. Many moons ago, we had a brief stint where we worked together. She was supporting me for a few months. And I remember I was in this fellowship, and it was the end of the fellowship, and we had the last convening for this fellowship. And I had this idea that I wanted to bring my cohort mates a gift. So like when they came to the hotel, they would check in, and they would get this gift. And so the gift was a spirit, which you can't always just ship by FedEx in certain states. This conference happened to be in California, and so I was telling Regina what I wanted to do, and she said, "Don't worry about it, I got it." And so the end of the fellowship comes, we're checking in. This mixed cocktail drink that I like called Gingeroo was given to all of my cohort mates as they checked into the hotel. And I asked Regina, I said, how did you do that? Because you're not supposed to mail this stuff. And she said, "Don't worry about it, I got a guy." And it was at that moment that I realized, don't ever question Regina Dyer. It will get done because she has a guy. And so when I knew that Regina was running this search for Camelback to help us find our new CEO, I knew that we're gonna be fine. She had a guy. We're gonna be in great hands. So that's a little bit about Regina. No, I haven't known Shawna as long as I've known Regina, but it's been a pleasure getting to know her over the last several months. And I remember telling the team as we were going into interviews, pick someone who you know is better than me. And they did that. And so I feel good because I know that Camelback's going to be led over the next 10 years by someone who's better than me. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about this person. So Shawna Young is a social impact entrepreneur, educator, speaker who has dedicated her career to empowering individuals driving social change. She most recently served as interim CEO of Ada Developers Academy, a nonprofit that has trained over 1,000 women and gender-expansive people of color as software developers. She was the executive director of the Scratch Foundation, Duke Talent Identification Program, and MIT Introduction to Engineering and Science. She began her career as a science educator, for all you science teachers out there, in North Carolina, and has managed programs at MIT and Harvard. Shawna has spent the last 25 years nurturing talent and shaping the futures of thousands of aspiring change makers. She has a BS in chemistry from Howard, a master's in teaching and science education from UNC Chapel Hill, an MBA from MIT, and just because that wasn't enough, a certificate in nonprofit management from Boston University. So her background speaks for itself. So welcome to the stage, please, Regina Dyer and Shawna Young.
Good evening, beautiful people. So, Shawna, did you ever imagine that you and I would be sitting together on this stage today.
Okay. So, thank you, Tanya. I want to say thank you to our team. I want to say thank you to Aaron for believing in this process. And I want to thank you, Regina, for seeing this in me, that this was the right opportunity. So I start with gratitude. And did I know I'd be sitting here? I did not. But I knew always from a young age that I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted to surround myself with positive people.
I love that. And look, I heard her well, so I'm sorry. I didn't have to turn my microphone. Like, I hear
Apologize.
everything. I don't understand. But I appreciate that, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. Before we get started and share things about your career and your achievements, I really want to make sure that we create the space for the audience to get to know you as I have through this journey.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So a recent author wrote, "You are in part who loves you." Shawna, I'd love to know who has loved you in your life that contributed to your achievements and where you are today.
Thank you. This question really speaks deeply to me. I think I start with my family. My mom and dad poured into me. So many people in this room, we actually, again, flew across the country to be here along my full journey. But I think the love that's carried me through all of those steps in my career is the love for my daughter.
Sophia.
Sophia.
Yes, Sophia. And I love how you've kind of lifted your parents, because I know my mom is centered in everything that I do as well, and it's like building a legacy for them. But I want to take a step back and think about ancestors, right?
Yeah.
How do ancestors show up in your life?
Yeah. We are our ancestors' dreams, their wildest dreams. I think growing up, I just sort of like grew up after, it's never over, but civil rights had sort of done a lot of things. My mom grew up in segregated schools. I did not. I believed that we had made all this progress. But in the last 10 years, I recognized there's so much more to do, even though we've had a lot of progress. And so I think about the fact that our ancestors fought and died for this very moment. You and I sitting on this stage, many of us came here against our will.
Yes.
All of our heritage stripped, everything taken from us, viewed as no value. And with all of that in front of us, our communities knew we should thrive and could thrive. And have thrived.
Absolutely.
And so I think about the fact that our ancestors envisioned not just this moment, they envisioned this room. They envisioned a space of equity, that everyone should have the opportunity to do whatever they wanted to do, all the time. And so I walk through my life daily thinking about those steps. When I'm walking in the airport, I think about the fact that we all walk together was not the case 100 years ago or 50 years ago in some parts of this country, and sometimes even now. And so for me, my ancestors drive me. The team will tell you, they're like, why do you have so much energy all the time? But I think about, like, there's always 5% more in the tank, because they had everything against them. And they envisioned us in this moment, and this moment is now, and there's still more work to do. Absolutely. So they live with me every day. I believe that Harriet is in my blood, in our blood. And so I will always do more, because they did all of this for us to be here now.
Yep. I love that. I love that. And Shawna, you know that I'm a hip-hop junkie.
Yes.
So I have to take the opportunity to ask you the question. When did you fall in love with hip-hop?
Oh, wow. I grew up on hip-hop, like the 90s, the 80s. Going to Howard in the 90s when you would just have folk walking on the yard like, hey, what's up? I'm like, what did you think that was? You know, so I think about Queen Latifah, UNITY. I think about people like we're celebrating 50 years of hip hop. I think about hip hop when it was all positive, when it was stories of our community before it was commercialized. And it reminds me of our culture. So, absolutely.
Yes. And I know all the words to self-destruction till this day.
Okay.
Sidebar in the lobby after our conversation, okay? So when you graduated from college, you wanted to be a doctor.
I did.
And we are sitting on this stage tonight, and I see all the amazing things that you've done, but being a doctor is not one of them, right?
I am not a medical doctor. Do not, if you go in the hospital and you see me in a white coat, run, okay? Because I don't know what I'm doing.
Can you talk to us about the crossroads, like the path to where that got you to where you are today, and where you had to make a choice of which direction you go, and how did you decide?
Yeah, I think one, I had lack of exposure. You know, growing up, you knew about being a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. I heard the word engineer, I didn't even know what that was. And so I didn't have a lot of the background around what it meant to be anything else. I knew I liked helping people. And so, and my mom was a teacher, and candidly, I just remember that teachers, you know, didn't have a lot of financial resources. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna be a doctor. And when I went to Howard majoring in chemistry, and I love science, by my junior year, I realized I didn't want to be a doctor. I was like, why did I say I want to be a doctor? I did not want to be a doctor. I didn't know what I wanted to be. And so I went to GE in this technical leadership program for 2 years. And after the first year, I was like, I don't want to be in corporate America either. This is this is not great. And so I quit that. My parents thought I was crazy. So now, like, their daughter, who was like their prize, was going to be a doctor. Didn't do that. Went to GE, had a great job, quit that. And then I was like, I want to be a teacher. So I don't know if you all have ever had the 2-parent phone call. You call to speak to the one that's the nicest, and the other one gets on the phone. So that's what happened. My mom and dad got on the phone, and they were checking for sanity. And I said, you know, I'm quitting my job at GE. I'm coming to North Carolina to be a teacher. And they're like, do you have a job? I said, no.
They felt good about that.
They did. It was all bad. But it was my calling, and I literally felt the calling into education. And once I made that decision, everything fell into place. You know, huge pay cut, all the things, but I felt rich from the moment I walked in the classroom. I used to tell the story of being a millionaire when I became a teacher. Don't check my bank account. I can't do math then. But every day I walked in the classroom, I was just filled with joy, with children who didn't know they could. And I was teaching high school science. Went from teaching in a suburban school with primarily white students, which I still loved. And I then went to an urban school, and I hate to use those languages or those labels, but my students were 95% Black. And I love that too, but what I anchored in was that I wanted young people to enjoy and love science. My science teacher cultivated this joy of science in me. He was quirky, chemistry teacher, Black chemistry teacher, and I wanted to be like that. My physics teacher, who was a white woman, that was also quirky, and I was like, these quirky people, I want to be like them. And so after that, and becoming a teacher and becoming a mom, I realized that the way I was pouring into education as a teacher 12 hours a day, which is impossible as a new mom. When I moved to Boston, there was this whole new world of educational nonprofits that I had no clue about. And that's why I ventured into Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, Education Development Center, and I landed at MIT, the Office of Engineering Outreach Programs, and it was just like everything. It was traveling the country telling young people of color that MIT was a place for them to thrive, and here's your free golden ticket. Come with me now.
All right, Willy Wonka.
Okay? And to see those young folk sit in the seats, I would say, were Nobel laureates, were teaching the next generation of leaders, and they were sitting there in 7th grade, in high school. I mean, when they left, their plan B was Princeton and Harvard and Yale, plan B. And all we did was help them believe they could do it. So that was the next turn point. going into nonprofit and being one of those. And I think the next one was when I went to Scratch Foundation, and it was a standalone nonprofit, founder transition, ed tech nonprofit. And so really recognizing I had to use another part of my brain to understand how you serve a platform that was built, and our team would say, like, Shawna, look, we're not as diverse as we could be, but we're serving kids from 200 countries. How can we do this more equitably? And so that's where I really learned, like, how you take a nonprofit and help it become a social impact ed tech organization. And a lot of people in this room helped me do this work. And so that's why, like, I'm emotional the whole way through, because my journey was anchored in people who cared about what I cared about and believed in me as a leader. And when I fell short sometimes, which I do, they were there to catch me and help me continue to grow.
I love that. And I think
And I'm at Camelback now.
Yes, yes. Well, you get to do all those things again. One more time. I love it. So let's dive into your journey as a BWT.
Yeah. What's that?
Black woman thriving.
Okay.
I trademarked it on the way to the T-shirts will be available in the lobby after our conversation. Okay. But as you think about that, given your role as CEO in the midst of all the things that are happening in our country, what are you doing, or can you share your perspective on what it looks like to lean into leadership as a Black woman?
Thank you for the question. First, I start with community. As a leader, we're often in this space of, like, we get to a place of being by ourselves. We feel like we're by ourselves. And I've been in moments where I'm leading, I'm going, I'm out there, I'm leading. And sometimes my mentors are like, Shawna, who's behind you and beside you? Like, where you going? You know, so, like, now I've learned when I show up that I am with community. I think that my journey, I often walk into spaces, I'm a science teacher, but I'm also, by some, identified as a Black woman, because I am. I'm from the South, so you can hear my drawl sometimes. I've had different journeys, and I have a lot of energy, and I have a lot of ideas. And so I have to think about, how can I do all that, be my authentic self, as one of my coaches in the room is here, my authentic leadership self. And I know for me, I can't do that in isolation. So I've learned that I have to have community around me that includes Black women. It also includes women, it includes people of color, it includes men, it includes white men, everyone who cares about what I care about. And we kind of have a shared agenda, and our shared agenda is overt, and it is that we want to ensure that our community is more equitable. It doesn't matter who you are and where you come from. We want you to feel like you can thrive. And I think about that even in how I create space, the team that I'm with. I love that Aaron has poured into Camelback. It's no question, right? And so for me, I have to do the same and more, because we are going through transition and change, and I am different than Aaron. And so I have to be cognizant of that and understand that as much as I believe people just know me already and trust me, that trust takes time to build. And so I think Black women thriving for me is long walks in the morning, in the evening, surrounding myself with positive people, walking in a room with confidence, but recognizing that sometimes I might make mistakes, and also listening as much as I can, and also acknowledging when maybe I did make a mistake.
I love that. And leading with grace.
Leading with grace. Thank you.
Leading with grace. Love that. So as Aaron mentioned, you were a CEO in your prior role before coming to Camelback. So you've led teams at other organizations. I know you've answered this a bunch of times through our interview process with you, but indulge me for the broader community. And it's a similar question to the one Charles posed earlier. Why Camelback? Why you? And why now?
Yeah. I really appreciate that question. So in my journey, I took a break in between Scratch Foundation and going to Ada as the interim CEO. And during that time, I did this thing called life coaching. It was a real thing. It was a real thing. I was like, what? Life coaching? That sounds good. Let me do some of that. And one of my mentors, Paula Sneed, who's not here but wanted to be here, was my life coach. And it was everything. We went all the way back to my first job ever from college, and all the things that made it really good, and all the things that made it hard. And in doing that process, I recognized that as much as I thought that as long as the mission and the vision and values were aligned with me, I can do it, I could change the world. No, that was like one little sliver. I had to have folk around me who believed in who I was, who created a space where I could make calculated risk, make some mistakes, and support me in that. I had to have a board who cared, who would trust me to lead, give me space to lead, a team who would also do that. So it was positive environment all around that I missed as I made this transition from, in the past, running nonprofits that were led by people of color before me to I was like, I can go to nonprofits that are larger that maybe were founded not by a person of color and help make them equitable. I did believe that. That's hard work. And so when I thought about Camelback, Aaron had done everything to create a culture of care, not just for his team, but for the fellows, for the whole environment, and had really started the Guardian Summit, things like that. And so I felt like it aligned. It was like coming home. By the time I got to interviews and meeting the staff, I was like, let's go. It wasn't a question. It really was everything full circle. I also was on this, in my mind, this climbing up, now the nonprofit's $30 million. Now I'm gonna go to $50 million, $100 million. And life coaching taught me, why does that matter? Mm-hmm. Why does it matter? I wanna be somewhere where we're making a difference with people who are changing the world. And so the fellows and founders are doing that every day. And so for me, Camelback was perfectly aligned with who I am and what I value, what I care about. Why me, you said, was the other? You have to ask the team. I don't know on the board, but I think I was, as Aaron said, which made me quite emotional. It wasn't about being better than anyone, but deeply caring about the work and showing up as myself. I wanted to ensure, in particular for this next step, that when whatever we talked about in the interview, you didn't feel like it was a different person who showed up after, right? And to name where my areas of growth are. And so that was really important to me. So I work hard, I care about making a difference in the world, and I try to be my authentic self.
Yeah.
Your third point was, thank you. Thank you.
Look, you said it.
Okay.
We got you. So Camelback has closed a chapter with the transition of the founder, Aaron Walker. Aaron, you can pop your proverbial collar. Your race is done. And with you coming in as its new leader, if the next 5 years are a chapter in your life, what would the chapter be about?
Yeah. Oh, good question. I think it's deeper community. I see this room, and I'm like, how do we pour into each other even more? If we grow, if we have more people in the room, how does it still feel like this room? Mm-hmm. So, we've got a fight on our hands. I mean, it's real. As Black women leaders, we feel like it's real. As people who care about equity feel like it's real. As anybody who knows what 3 years felt like when it was unfortunate, but everyone rallied behind what it meant to really make America more equitable, and seeing that change now. And so I think that I want to be part of the Camelback movement of change so that our founders thrive, But whether you're a founder or a fellow or not, you're part of our community and our family. And what I love about this moment in our summit and even this dinner is so many people have come up and said, I'm here. Fellow or not, I'm here. I want to be part of what's happening in this room.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think about 5 years from now that we are the stake in the ground that says, regardless of how that equity pendulum swings back and forth, we're still here, right? Reminding you of the fact that there's more work to do. And so that's what makes me think about the next 5 years. We have to pour into our fellows and our collaborators and our guardians, and we all have to come out together as a united front full of people who care and ask questions over and over again and push against this narrative that only one demographic should have all the resources, right?
Yep.
You know, we have to name the thing, right? We have to name the thing, and then we have to help move toward the vision that we know our ancestors gave their lives for, from all backgrounds, right? And so we're not done. If we remember the starting point of America, the things that we are not proud of, but are real to us, and we say that's our starting point, then we know we're not done with this work, right? I think sometimes we try to say, oh, it's racism. No, it's not racism. It's deeper than that. It's our founding. And so we have to work every day on our vision of where we want to be. And Camelback can do that work together with our full community because our entrepreneurs are changing the world already. And so when they speak up and say what their needs are, we have to listen, we have to understand, and we have to put everything forward to make sure they're supported.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. So Shawna, now we're going to do a few rapid fire questions. What's your favorite unimportant thing about yourself?
Oh my gosh, I've been thinking about this question. I was like, what's unimportant? I was a synchronized swimmer.
Okay.
Hey, yes. To this day, I know there's a pool diversion, maybe not this time, but I can still do a couple of flips up, you know. And my legs don't go up as high. They like the toes go up, you know, like don't judge me. Don't judge me. I can still tread water. I would say that's probably it.
Okay, I love that. I love that. Lessons tomorrow morning before
Yes.
the start of this summer.
6:30 in the morning, please.
Yes. Where did the name Shawna come from?
Thank you for asking that question. It was actually my mom's good friend, a white woman that she sort of like grew up with and loved, and she named me after her.
Oh, okay. Coffee or tea?
Oh, tea. I don't drink coffee. Don't judge me. I don't drink coffee.
Okay. Tea is in the building.
Tea.
Okay. I got another one. Wings or flats?
Oh, wings. Oh, the drums? The
Drums or flats?
Drums.
Excuse
No
me.
question, drums.
I always mess this up. Yeah, drums or flats?
Drums.
Lemon
Sorry.
pepper? You better
Lemon
say
pepper.
lemon pepper.
Lemon pepper.
Okay.
Lemon pepper.
So your daughter, Sophia,
Yes.
is attending Harvard in the fall.
That's a dream.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about dreams and golden tickets. Yes, please, for both of my children. But what advice do you have for us?
Yeah, I, it's interesting. Some parents have asked me, and I was like, I don't have the advice. I think the main thing is that for my daughter, and many in the room know her, I could only do so much. You could tell I have some energy, and so I was like, I always did more. I was up till 1 a.m. studying. I had to make sure I had everything right. And so Sophia was starting to take AP classes. I was like, you have to do this, you have to do that. She's like, back up. Can you please back up? And I really had to let her find her own passion, her own pathway. I definitely had to provide the framework, the guardrails, but I had to let go. And I kept feeling like I'm paying for softball lessons and then you quit. I'm paying for guitar. I got guitar lessons right now if you want some. It was just popping from one thing to the next. But eventually she found her own. It was basketball. She became the captain of the varsity team. She became president of BSU at her high school. Like, she found her own. She ended up taking 9 AP classes, which I still can't believe now. because it was a slow start anyway.
Yeah.
But I was like, what? And she, we've been through a lot. She's had a story. She's been through a lot.
Yeah.
And she's persevered. And she's used, I name it. We do mental health. We go to therapy, right? So she used all those things to stay strong. And she's going to Harvard studying neuroscience.
Oh.
And yeah.
I love that.
And yeah, so she was supposed to be here tonight, and she said, I have a final, Mom.
Oh.
And she had something for BSU, and so she's like, is it being taped? But so I love the fact that she's taking and making sure she's doing her pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's independent of the label. I think it's a really great match for her. So I think for you, it's like loving your kids and allowing them to be themselves, which is sometimes hard to do. And they'll find the right place, and you'll be there with them.
Mm-hmm. I love that, and make sure Sophia sends me a sweatshirt so I can start the Whisper campaign for my own children.
Okay.
Little silent
We'll do
encouragement
that.
won't hurt anything, right? So we are going to turn it over to the audience for any questions that you may have for Shawna. So Charles is over by the microphone. Welcome you all.
Was I that good?
Yeah. Look at us.
Super dope.
For everything you do and the energy you have, I'm just curious, how do you deal with burnout?
Oh. Okay. Okay, the long walks help. When I'm feeling like a lot's going on, I will take a moment. I will go for a long, even the team would seem like, I need a break. I do like rom-coms, romantic comedies, don't judge me. Like, I will literally, if I'm having a straight, weekend, I'm not gonna do any work, I will watch them mugs from Saturday morning to Sunday night and do no work. The team like, thank you for the rom-coms. No emails from Shawna, nothing, okay? So that's one thing. I love spending time with family, and so that gives me a lot of energy and joy. And I like to travel, but that can get exhausting. So I really learned to, especially with COVID, how to just sit a little bit, calm and sit, and take the time for myself. And the walks help because I remember when I was at MIT, my dean, I reported to the dean of the School of Engineering, and I was telling him I was working so hard. I was working 80 to 100 hours a week. It was something crazy because we had high school kids on campus, so you had to always be there. And I was telling him I wasn't taking vacations, or I wasn't griping, I was just sort of explaining. And he paused and he was like, Shawna, that's not good. You're actually not doing your team service by not pausing and doing vacations and reflecting, being a reflective leader. So when I actually went to Duke, I switched it up. And I took time to my work was thinking. It was just walking and thinking and talking. And I had a different approach. And so that's what also helps me. Thank you for the question. Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience?
Stacey wants to know which rom-com are you watching?
I got a favorite.
We're going to talk about that later. I'm going to steal one of your questions, Charles, that you asked Jessica. What can the people in this room do for you?
Oh.
And be selfish.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stacey. I think it's care. Deep care for me is coming into this role, filling big shoes with Aaron. I really am excited about this opportunity. And what's helped me, some of the team, Riaz is saying, take a break. Some things like that is really helpful to just sort of remind myself that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so this work we're gonna do together, we're all gonna have to be refreshed. And when we get tired, someone's gonna pick up the baton. And so I think that, obviously, always, if you wanna write big checks, we'll take those too. Our fellows will take them, we will take them. If you know other people who write big checks, we'll take those. But I think also it's a moment of change, so giving your ideas and sharing your thoughts around what you're seeing and what we should be aware of. And not that Camelback is gonna do all the things, but if we in some way can help facilitate conversations and support, that's what comes to mind for me. Thank you so much, Stacey.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh.
We have a
we
A
have
question
one.
in the back?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It feels really great to be here, and I'm not looking for any strategic answer, but I want to bring to the table that less than 0.2% of Black women are getting funding in tech.
Yeah.
And Camelback is such an amazing space that supports people like me and founders who are really trying to lead that future. I'm just kind of wondering if that's something that's on your radar or on your list of things to consider how Camelback can really help bridge that gap.
I appreciate the question. I think it's unfortunately not just in tech, it's across nonprofit leaders. I co-founded an organization called Black CS Network, and we use that information from Echoing Green saying that, nonprofit leaders of color, Black nonprofit leaders were getting 1% to 2% of philanthropic dollars. And so for me, I think it's as we're having these conversations, if I'm going out, I'm not thinking about just Camelback. I'm always thinking about our whole ecosystem. And so I'm like, you can fund somebody. I can find somebody, I'm thinking about it in that way, who I'm talking with. So if that's an institutional donor, that's an individual person, it's like, how can we connect you into our community? And then also, I think we can think about how can we elevate our fellows and our full community so others know who we are, who you are. And we have to name it. I think we can do more with just saying what's going on. When I talked to a couple of funders, corporate funders, about the data, they were stunned. And I'm like, so I think there's a lack of awareness there too, that we should just sort of campaign and share. So it's absolutely on my radar. Thank you for the question.
Got one over here in the front.
Hi, congratulations and
Thank you.
welcome aboard. So, Aaron had a pretty unique way of how he navigated just the organization. Myself and my partner have been in several different organizations, participated in accelerators, and he had a way of just how he met you exactly where you are in your position, and his leadership was pretty interesting in how he connected with us, and it wasn't loud, wasn't a lot of hoopla. It just was really quiet and meaningful. So my question is, what is your leadership style?
Start yelling.
And it's a two-part question. So what is your leadership style? And also, since you're a hip-hop head, who you have, Kendrick or Drake?
Oh, wow, you're getting me in trouble. Oh, wow, I don't know if I'm doing a second question.
Focus on the first one.
Let's
Focus on the first question.
Focus on the first one. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for asking about my leadership style. I think for me, I start with just relationships, really getting to know people and care. I am probably I'm probably not as quiet, but I try to center on like who you are and how can I help you? So servant leadership, a bit of that. And my brain also goes to a lot. If you're hanging with me, I'm like, you should know this person, you should know this person. So a lot of connections. I feel like that is what we often are deficit in, is social capital. And I've been blessed with people sharing social capital with me. And so I try to create spaces where we can do more of that sharing. But I think my leadership style is active and trusting. And I think also I just I lead with trust. And so it gives me pause when I realize many people, and I totally understand this, trust has to be earned. I kind of come into this space with trust. And so I'm asking questions and things like that. I'm trying to understand, but it's not because I don't trust what's been done. It's really like, how do I understand it better? And so that's how I would describe it. I don't know if I want to ask that same question. I feel like I'm gonna get messed up. I'm gonna come back on that one. I think I need to do a little more research. I feel like I don't know. I don't know I'm ready.
The question here.
Hello, Shawna,
Yeah.
and welcome to the city.
Thank you.
I'm curious what your guardian is a new term for me
Yeah.
in the space. And I'm very new to Camelback. I'm the newest member of the team at Brothers Empowered to Teach. I'm curious what your I'm curious what your definition of guardian is and how it is that you intend to weave that into the work.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. When I think of guardian, and it's who is holding care for a community, and that care includes all the resources, so your time, your capacity, your social capital, your treasure. You show up. So I think for me, when I see this room, guardians include also our fellows, especially as they're growing. It includes folk who want to be part of the work we're doing, who might have more financial resources than anything else. So some people have just so many connections that they want people to know about it, who have ideas. And so I think it's multifaceted. And I also think it's a continuum, right? Like, even for myself, there's time when I have no money, but I have a lot of ideas, or I have a lot of connections, and I want you to know that, and I want to share that with you, and vice versa. So I think Guardians, what I like also about what Aaron has started with the Guardian Summit and Guardians in general, is that it creates the ecosystem. So as a person who's run a lot of programs, which have done really good work, I think, for Camelback, we can move beyond any program we run, and we actually are a social justice movement. And so in doing that, Guardians play a critical role in that. And so our capital collaborators are here. They're part of that work. Our fellows are part of that work. Those who've shown up for years for Aaron are all part of that work.
Hello. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
I'm curious because there's a lot of founders in this room,
Yeah.
and you're a special unicorn, as we like to call it, when we think about the transition from a founder to the next leader.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, especially as someone that's been in this position before, and particularly you're in it now, how can we prepare our organizations, whether it's 1 year from now or 10 years from now, to have a leader such as you come and take over the mantle for us? Because I think a lot of us don't receive that information.
Yeah. I appreciate the succession planning question. I think as a person who's done it, more than once now, what I appreciate about the Camelback process is the time that Aaron has given to the team. I think also I've been in situations where I was checking for the leadership, meaning maybe when I went to Duke, I was very clear and understood what the leadership was looking for, but what I didn't check for was alignment with the team. And when I got into that to Duke Tip, I recognized that there was just a disconnect. And the team said that, here, this is what we thought was important, and Duke leadership and their definition of equity was much stronger and different. And so I found myself in this challenge point. And so when I've come into Camelback, there was time with the team to know that there would be succession. There was alignment already, strategic plan sort of set in place for that alignment. And even the ecosystem knew about it, including the donors. So I think what I would suggest is to really make a plan for it. Succession is gonna happen at some point. And so you want that to happen. So really thinking about now key positions, not just for the CEO position, but other positions in your organization. So time, having conversations, thinking about how an organization can run without you at the center of it is something else. In addition to this, I've been helping my parents do this. They ran their gymnastics business for 40 years, and we just started doing succession planning 2 years ago. So we did that by pulling them out of the business a bit more, so they can it can run on its own more. And I think Aaron has done that with the team, really empowering them to do more during this last year. And also, candidly, he's done a great job ensuring that fundraising was really strong. I think leaving your team and your organization well-funded as much as possible, ready for that transition, because we know, you have to say it, right? Like, I think that's really important. When I think about when I've transitioned out of other roles, I've really paid attention to financially where the organization is. I want to make sure that next leader has a runway to do well.
Any other questions from the audience? One here.
Thank you so much for all that you've been sharing this evening. It's been very enlightening. I have a question about the power of stories and narrative change. And I'm curious, as you think about the story that's being told about founders of color and, you know, our journey, someone has already mentioned what goes on, particularly with Black women. What does success look like for you in terms of the narrative shift that you would like to see accomplished, let's say, 3 to 5 years from now?
Yeah. That you can just be yourself. You show up, and that's enough. Candidly. Like, there's no song and dance. There's no extra proving, extra work, extra degrees. When you've been in places where you see a lot of social capital that you just have it walking in and there's no proof of concept that's been done, but you see millions flow to ideas based on a napkin, and then you're asked to have a dissertation for $25,000. I mean, it's hard, it's exhausting. So I want us to be less exhausted. I want to be part of the transition where it's everyone has the same value. You have this. So that's what I'm thinking about in terms of Camelback and the work we can do together and having these spaces where everyone knows, what's your idea? Let's go. And that's it. And so I appreciate that question.
First of all, I just want to say welcome.
Thank you.
I know you talked a lot about Aaron's leadership, and he's phenomenal. But when you talk about care and trust, I just want to encourage you to lean into the team that you're going to lead.
Oh, thank
because
you.
to a man and woman, to each and every one of them, they are caring. They are always there for us as founders and as collaborators, and I know that they're going to be there for you.
Thank you.
So wanted to shout that out. My question to you is, we've been asking you questions, but is there a question that you wish you had been asked, and would you answer it for us? What did you want to say that we haven't asked you yet?
Look at him stealing my closing questions. I might as well go sit down next to Aaron. Go on and answer the man's question.
Yeah, I think for me, my question or my I wonder is what have you been pondering? I know there are certain things for founders for sure, more financial resources, we have to figure that piece out. But you're hearing different things than I'm hearing. And so I'm thinking about how do we have those conversations so that I can understand your journey, your story, and then what you know, and also how we can use that information to have a stronger movement together. And so I don't know all the things yet to ask all the questions. I don't know what I don't know. And so I think what I'm looking forward to is getting to know each person, our community, and listening more and hearing. I'll say I had a really great conversation with lots of our team. I want to highlight one that I had with Salam. And I was in my head, okay, but if we have a demo day and we have this and we have this, and this is how we're going to highlight our founders and they're going to get the money. And she's like, Shawna, we can do all those things and we still have inequity and racism in the room with them. So when they do that pitch, when they talk about their idea, that's in the room with them. So So that's where my I wonder is, like, oh, maybe it's not 20 pitch days, demo days. Maybe there's a reason why those things haven't been happening. How do we create authentic conversations so that our founders have their ideas heard and supported? So that's one of the things I've been thinking about. I want to just maybe close with some thank yous.
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to thank our team. I want to thank Tanya Dahl for putting on. Our team has been working heroically, running programs into our summit. This is the first time we've done that. So they're just like on high fumes, I would say. We have 2 more days. I want to thank our board for believing in me and trusting in the process. I'm excited to get to know you more. I want to thank Aaron for everything. I want to thank those who know me well, those who just met me now, for your care, your trust, and your time. I want to thank you, Regina, for being with me on this journey.
Absolutely. And I can't allow you only to thank me. I have other members of the Offor team
yes.
here.
Thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much. So I'm just excited about our journey together, and I'm just happy to be here, and I'm full of gratefulness.
Shawna Young, Madam CEO, yes, on behalf of Camelback, on behalf of Offor, on behalf of the past, present, and future BWTs around the country,
Thank you.
we welcome you to the Camelback community.
Thank you so much, Regina.
So that was an amazing conversation. Like, I've been asking this question, what's your revolution? I think Camelback knows what its revolution is going to be. I remember when I came on to Camelback, on my first day, they made sure that I had something that I could take with me. And so I want to make sure that as you come on to Camelback, that you get the same thing that every member of the team has gotten a little bit. So Stacy West, please come up and present Shawna with the Camelback swag.